Welcome, everybody, to the July edition of Gateway Guest. We are excited to have Brian Sinuk from Carsultants with us. And I'm really motivated to talk about this as having worked with Brian as a consultant, or some people call them car brokers, auto brokers. He has made a big difference for me in my own car buying decisions and process over the past several years. And we want to ask the questions that are probably mostly on your mind when it comes to buying a car, usually new cars. And Brian, thank you for being here.
My pleasure.
I want to give a brief bio summary about your career as the chief consultant at Carsultants. Uh, Brian's career in the industry began early from interning at the General Motors Proving Grounds in Mesa and at Linda Brock Automotive Group in Scottsdale, as well as working as a wholesale car buyer while earning his MBA in marketing and finance. And in that role, he personally inspected and negotiated more than 3,500 vehicles. Brian owned and operated a used car dealership in Phoenix from 2001 to 2007, then founded Carsultants to help buyers rather than work against them, or so it may seem. So he's guided since then over 1,000 individuals through the car buying process, mainly here in the Phoenix area, but also people out of state to help make that process smoother, less frustrating, um, also less time consuming, and saving money, even after his own fee, still saving a significant amount of money. And I know that's been my experience over multiple car purchases. And I felt like, Brian is very worthwhile sharing as much as we can to help out in the car buying environment. And I even think of right now in Phoenix, it's the dog days of summer, going to be at least 110. Why go out in the dealership and have to check into a bunch of different cars and haggle with people and sweat it out literally when you could do it from the comfort of your home and let Brian do the extra work for you. So it's something that also a great time to be thinking about if you're not going to go out until the fall, why not start researching with Brian's help and looking into all your options to make it easy and even an enjoyable experience. So, Brian, let's start off. Can you just tell our audience more about what Carsultants does and what really led you to specialize in helping people navigate the car buying process?
Yeah, happy to be here. I was a car dealer for a bit and a wholesale buyer before that, as you mentioned. And when I was a car dealer, I didn't like the dynamic that car dealers are, where they're trying to push you to buy and get you to pay more money. Whereas I want to switch that around in a sense, and help people save money when buying a car. I mean, car buying should be fun, yet most people dread it. They compare it to getting a root canal or something like that. I mean, shoppers, some people like shopping, and shopping should be fun for a car, but most people never enjoy it until they meet me.
Yeah. Yep. I'm even one of those. I never even had to set foot on a dealership on the car lot to close the deal. They even delivered the car to me. That was probably my favorite experience.
Yeah, we do that sometimes. Not unusual, but people are always happy with that. No time at a car
Right.
deal.
Right. So even when at the dealership, you can make it an enjoyable experience. So let's
Even
get
that,
into some of that, the facets. But I keeping my financial planner hat on here. My next question is, when someone is deciding whether they can afford a particular vehicle, how do you encourage them to think about where that purchase fits within their broader budget and financial goals?
well, I have a different approach than most people when it comes to buying a car. And one facet of that is that, most people say I have 500, 600, $1,000 to spend on a car. What's the best car I can get for that price? I like to see what the best car they can get at the lowest price, at the lowest payment that they're comfortable with. And I always get asked after the fact from people that meet me at a party or social gathering, did I get a good deal? And my frank answer is, if you can afford the payment and you're happy with the car, you got a good deal. Because if I told them the truth and more more honesty with what the deal they could have got, they're going to feel like they really got taken, which is the case most of the time. So I really like to look at someone's budget, and sometimes I get deeper into that than others. It just depends on the individual and their personal needs.
Speaking of budget, if I remember correctly, you usually don't even charge your fee until the end, right? Because you want to make sure it's a good experience and they even save money.
It depends. Sometimes I charge a third of my fee up front, but not until I've done research and made it sure I can save them money and be of service to them, which
Right.
is almost always the case.
Right. Nobody expects you to work for free, of course. And but ultimately it seems like, yeah, you're gonna make sure that they're getting value
Yes.
um in multiple ways. And that's how it's gone for me. So how about the classic question of paying cash versus financing? What are the factors you think buyers should weigh when they're deciding between these two approaches?
Well, first, I think they should talk to their financial advisor if they have a concern about that. I'm just a secondary resource. So, what I say to them is it really depends on the cost of borrowing the money from the dealership or a bank versus what your money is earning on your own. If it's sitting in a bank account earning 2% and we can borrow money at 3 or 4 or 5%, you're better off paying cash. But if you have money earning 6, 7, 8, 9, 10%, and we can borrow money for 2, 3%, it's a no-brainer. Take the money from the bank or the car dealer and borrow.
Yeah. Yeah, it's usually basic math, unless it's just a peace of mind thing, just not owing. That's worth something too, right?
For those individuals that don't want to owe anybody anything, and I
Hmm.
appreciate that.
Yep.
I often get asked the question, Tim, whether or not paying cash or financing, do you get a better deal? And the answer is both of them will yield you a better deal with me. It's really not one or the other. The reason why car dealers ask if you're a cash buyer is they don't have to worry about getting you financed. However, if there is financing involved, they're going to make money on the financing.
Yeah.
They like to hear that as well. If you're a high credit score, which most of my individuals are, then the dealership likes to hear that you're financing. There's opportunity to make money. But of course, with me, I try to get them the interest rate at what's called the buy rate, which is what they're paying. So there's no markup. As in addition to the car, they often mark up the rate a point or two.
And you're typically going right to the fleet manager. You're bypassing the usual salespeople.
Well, it's either fleet or often a sales manager. Sometimes it's a general sales manager. I just did one with the general manager of a Chevrolet dealership. So I try to go as high as possible as I can get, so to kind of take away all that back and forth. Going,
Yeah.
I have to ask my manager stuff. Occasionally, I do work with a salesman if they're stellar. If it's a stellar, outstanding salesperson, they're the one I use, and they can do the footwork for me.
Great. You feel that you believe they really have the customer's best interests in mind.
They do. People I work with, I choose the best dealers and the best people in those dealerships. Not to say that those dealerships don't take advantage of people when I'm not there, because it does happen. Every dealership does have that side to them. When I'm involved, they see me as a repeat customer, offering straight, honest talk, and they give me that back. So
Yeah.
um, I trust in my absence, if I'm away on a vacation or not able to go to the dealer with someone, if I'm busy doing something that takes my attention, I trust almost everybody I work with to work with my people without me. And what they do is they'll show the car and then they'll call me to discuss the numbers. So my clients don't ever have to discuss numbers with the dealership themselves.
So I know you almost 100% work with new cars, but my experience with you is, I don't mind getting a lightly used car, low miles, if it's also going to save significant. There's that sticker price that comes off once it's off the lot. And but my experience also has been that you can typically negotiate a deal with a new car dealer that's about the same or even better in some cases than a lightly used car, which is very eye-opening to me. Has that been an experience you see often?
Often, almost always. I do 95% new cars. Occasionally, I'll do a certified pre-owned if it makes sense. Certain cars do depreciate quite a bit in the first year or two. The majority of them are marked up. You know, people say, I want that 1 year old, 2 year old car that has depreciation. And in many ways, that's the unicorn that doesn't really exist. Because those cars, for that to exist, would mean that the individual had to buy the car and then decide to sell it. And most people who buy a car don't sell it the first few years. One, because they know they're going to face depreciation. And two, those cars usually wind up back at the dealership, and the dealership prices them in a way that's not much off the new car, or sometimes more. Because people will walk into a dealership and they'll say, I'm not looking at new. I know about that depreciation. Show me the used. But what they don't know is those used cars are often marked higher than the new car equivalent. So,
Right, right. And also, if you want to go private, there's a lot more hassle usually and risk where you might avoid that big markup from a dealer, but who often has the time to go from one private seller to another? It depends, right?
it does. And I don't buy any private party cars for my clients because of the time consumption, as well as there's so many salvage titles and so many people are in the car business. They have a saying, you guys will probably laugh at this. It says, buyers are liars. Whereas everyone thinks the car dealers are liars, the car dealers think the buyers are the liars. Same is true with the sellers of private industry. Most of those sellers are liars, sadly. Once in a while, you'll find an old lady selling a car, an old man, that was senior driven, barely driven, low miles, and that's
Yeah.
fine. But there are so many people looking for them, and the dealers themselves are looking for those used cars because they like to mark them up and put them back on the lot.
Yeah. So what about leasing a car versus owning? That can cause some confusion. How do you help someone think through which structure might better align with their situation and priorities?
Yes, so I would say 60% of my clients lease. In the car business today, 80% people lease. The way I determine it is how long do you want to keep your car? Do you want to keep it only 3 years, 2 years, 4 years? Then you might consider leasing. If you want to keep it 5 to 10 years, you're most likely better off buying. That's the big determinant. However, if someone's short on money and they want a lower payment, leasing, if the payment is 70% of the purchase payment, then it's a good lease payment. If it's over 70, then I usually stay away and tell them they're better off buying no matter what. But if they can get a payment 70% or below the purchase payment, in that case, they should consider leasing if they only want to keep the car a short time, or if they can buy the car out at the end of the lease. What that does is gives them a lower payment, but also extends it for a long time. Because if you have a 3 year lease and then you do a 5 year purchase, you're now making car payments for 8 years. So,
Interesting. Right. For some people, it's just a matter of convenience, right? And less risk of car problems and always that new car smell and that feel, right?
like I lease personally, and actually most people in the car business lease because they see it's a good alternative to buy. However, you do pay for it every month, but I don't mind it at all. I look at it as a cheap rental. Look at what rental cars cost, it's much more expensive than leasing. And so I know I never have a repair bill. Maybe I have an oil change once a year, if that. If you do electric, there's no oil, of course. But if you have an oil change once, maybe twice a year, that's all you're paying. And a lot of times those are paid for by the manufacturer in the deal.
Right. Kind of incentives. Very good point. And it's interesting that you actually prefer leasing, being who you are.
Well, to be honest, I have both. I have cars
Yeah.
I and lease.
Right.
Not the normal guy. I have three personal cars.
All
So
right.
unlike the normal two. But no, most people have
Well, isn't mileage a big factor in leasing too, if you're going to be driving a lot?
yes and no. So if you can determine how many miles you're going to drive per year, then we can get a lease that'll accommodate that. You can get leases for 15, 20,000 miles, sometimes more per year. So
Okay, so there's ways to work with that.
there is, if someone, the other thing is you don't want to have too many miles because then you're just wasting money on a higher payment. But it does lower your residual value, which is the amount you would pay at the end of the lease if you determined you wanted to buy it.
What about say you're buying, what ongoing costs of ownership do you find people tend to underestimate?
Well, depreciation, as we mentioned, is a factor. Of course, there is repair bills. Some people do prepaid maintenance, which I don't see that as a good advantage, because it's usually marked up. You're better off getting a prepaid maintenance plan through your service department once you own it, FYI. But it's those 30K, 60K, and 90K services that are so much money. And unlike the value meal at McDonald's, where the sum of the parts are less, it's the opposite. You know, you don't get the Big Mac and the fries and the drink for less at the dealership. Those things, the oil change, the air filter, the belts, when they add all of it together, they add up more money than if you did them separate.
Interesting. So you got to be prepared for that or find a trustworthy mechanic that can do all that at maybe a lower price than the dealer.
And when you do a 30K service, you could break up those services and do those things individually, and maybe you don't need all of them. So the best advice is when you get there to do that service, talk to your service person, and hopefully they're trustworthy and they tell you what is required and what is suggested. And you can make your decision on which ones to do.
Then what about warranties? You know, do you see value in those, especially if you can negotiate down the price for people?
You know, it's funny. I used to say, don't buy a warranty ever. You know, I never bought them. I never thought they were worth it. But things have changed. First of all, one time I had a client who was a doctor, and he says to me, Brian, I always buy the warranty. And I said, I never buy the warranty. And he shared with me that even if you never use it, it's peace of mind. He knows that every night when he goes to sleep, he'll wake up in his car, no matter what happens to it, he doesn't have a bill. And he never has to worry about something breaking and not being able to afford it. If there's a weird noise or a shake or rattle. But to answer your question about buying them, with the lease, there's no need for them. To purchase them, a car, yes, it's worth considering if you're going to keep the car 5+ years, because the electronics in those cars and the display screens and all of the touch screens and everything else is very expensive these days. The average car has like 35+ computers. And so if one computer breaks, that would pay for your whole warranty.
Yeah.
But warranties are negotiable, as you mentioned, and it's very important that if you don't use me, you negotiate on that warranty. And theoretically, you can buy a warranty from any dealership in the country to warranty your car. If you buy a Chevrolet and you don't like the warranty price at the dealership that day, you can call around or look online and get a quote from other Chevrolet dealerships. All you would do is call and ask for finance and ask them, you say you're shopping around for warranties, what do they have to offer?
Okay.
In most cases, they can write you a policy if the car is
Even
brand
if
new.
you've been driving the car for a while.
Yes, if it's brand new and still under factory warranty when you drive.
Okay. But having that bumper to bumper with all these electronics, yeah, that can make a lot of sense. And in my experience, you're able to negotiate it down. There was only a few $100s a year for me to get a 10-year warranty.
Absolutely.
Uh, and I thought, okay, that's a no-brainer because we plan to keep our new car at least 10 years, knock on wood, right?
Of course. You see the value since that is what you do.
Yeah. Okay, so what are the biggest mistakes you often see people make when it comes to just a purchase or some good practices to avoid them other than just not working with a great consultant like you?
Trade-in. That's one of the pitfalls. People often bring in their car dirty, and car dealers will tell you, we don't care, we can see past the dirt. But the reality is, if your car has just been detailed, even just a light detail or just a good car wash, you'll get more money for it because it shows that you took care of it and clean out the trash if there is any trash or anything like that. Don't make it cluttered. It's like showing a house. The real estate agents will tell you, you know, put everything in the closets, clean out this, clean out that, because it
Hmm.
just sells better, even to a professional at a car dealer. I mean, as a used car buyer, I used to look for little things to indicate whether it's a good car. Like, are the floor mats stained? Are there, is there wear and tear here and there? Because if there's wear and tear, then most likely they didn't take care of the engine either. And
Very good point.
car managers who do the purchasing do the same thing. So when they appraise your value, that number is completely negotiable. And never, ever tell them what you think it's worth. Tell them you have no idea and let them go tell you what they think it's worth. Then use Kelley Blue Book Online, kvb.com, or Edmunds to argue against that. Or go to cars.com and see what they're selling for.
Yeah, or Carvana. That was a good experience for us. We had a known issue. It wasn't our fault, but it was out of warranty, of course. And they gave us a great offer, even though I disclosed the issue. It made it super easy to pick it up. So you still pointed us in that direction. And of course, you could help negotiate a trade-in value with the dealer. Have you been able to help people with that?
Always. I always negotiate that as well. But
Perfect.
Carvana is a place to start as a backup number. And
Yeah.
there's times, depending on the time of year and their mood, when I say mood, it's the computer's mood, but the computer algorithm's mood, basically, that determines what you're getting for your car. And often it's more than a dealer will pay. But when you trade into a dealership, if you're purchasing, there's tax savings. You don't want to not ignore that completely.
Good point.
Car, there's no tax savings. When you purchase a car, there is tax savings for the trade.
Now, when you're in the finance room and evaluating a financing offer, what really should you be paying attention to regarding the loan length, the interest rate, the total cost over the life of the loan?
Um, I don't like to see anybody finance over 6 years, 72 months. I prefer they go 5 years and four if they can swing it. It's just once you get to 84 months, you're still paying on a car. It's probably just got its own problems at that point if you didn't take a warranty. So now you're making a car payment and having car repair bills. It's just a long time to pay interest. And that interest adds up. And the longer the term, the higher the interest rate.
Yeah.
You do a short term, you get lower interest. So, and some people
And
write off their payments, or their vehicle. So it's something to consider doing shorter term than longer.
interesting. Yeah, lots of facets there, including if you have your own business, and it doesn't take much to have your own business and be able to deduct those expenses. That's a very good point. So, and sometimes it makes sense to pay it off early, right? Depending on the circumstances. And if you can do that while still having a good emergency fund and have a good balanced financial plan, that's more my job with folks, then I realize that can make sense too, as long as there's not a prepayment penalty.
I agree. There's never a prepayment penalty in Arizona. All are simple interest loans with no prepayment penalty. Sometimes they'll tell you not to pay it off the first 3 or 6 months. And that, again, is not true because there's no prepayment penalty. The only reason they're telling you that is they don't want to get charged back some incentives. So it's up to you what you want to do. If you want to do a gentleman's agreement or a person, and honor what they ask you, you can. Some people just pay it off 1 month later. Just individual decisions.
So when somebody's going through a different life stage, maybe it's a growing family, change in jobs, or retirement, do you see that impacting what you might help them or steer them toward if they're asking for guidance on what to buy?
First, I want to address the word steer them towards. I really don't steer my customers. I once had an individual come to me and say, I need a car. What would you tell me to buy? And I said, I wouldn't tell you to buy anything. Just ask you questions on, I have a background as a life coach once upon a time. And as coaches, we learn it's all questions. So really what I am is a car buying coach. That's how I see myself. So I ask you a lot of questions to help identify your needs, and I may make suggestions that'll help that fit in those needs. But lifestyle changes do dictate often changes in automobiles. Um,
Yeah.
uh, Empty nesters no longer need the 7 or 8 passenger vehicles. As the kids get older and start driving themselves, people often downgrade to 5 passenger vehicles. Sometimes, when you get an empty nester, it's time to buy a sports car. Your dream come true at that point.
Right, it can still be fun.
Yes.
Good. Yeah, I see many seniors driving sports cars. I
True.
applaud them. So, thinking more about later in life now, or in the event of a death, what do you see normally happen with a loan if somebody passes away? And is there any planning that can be made for that?
Well, if the car is in a trust, it's not affected. But it comes down to sometimes if it's leased, often those leases are terminated upon death, and the car has to be surrendered. So if you are older, you might want to put it in two names. That way, if you face death, your spouse doesn't have to give up your car and their car.
Interesting.
Yeah. The purchases, I think again, it really comes down to their trust if they have one or what their will says, and whoever takes over those payments or not. I mean, it's not like the banks will know you passed away. So some people keep their car when a spouse has passed, just making the payments. But it really depends individually what works for the individual.
Plus, I know at least in Arizona, you can name a direct beneficiary of your car with the ADOT form through the MVD website. Very simple. And so it bypasses probate, doesn't even have to be in your trust, and it can just go to a person, and all they have to do is bring that form with the death certificate and their own identification, and they own title to the car without ever talking to an attorney or probate. So, have you seen people do that? Has that always worked out?
A little bit. I haven't seen a lot of it, but most people, what I deal with, my cash buyers are about 10, 15%. So the people I deal with are usually getting a car with a loan or a lease, and then that would not apply.
Right.
Cash buyers, it's good that they know that. It's something I do point out and remind them.
Very good. So I know you love a good classic car as much as anybody else, although my understanding is you don't really get involved in collector cars. But how would you suggest people think about a collector car, something that has higher value as part of their overall estate and how they might pass that down?
Again, I think the ADOT form is a great way to pass it down. I think it can be a good investment, but you need to be very careful. You really need to talk to an expert on what that value is. You can see two, let's see, let's say 63 Corvettes. One might be worth 40 and one might be worth 100. How do you know the difference? You know, and I'm not the guy to answer that, to be honest. But I can just tell you, be careful and talk to an expert on used car buying. And there are a lot. AI can also help you. But when it comes down to actually inspecting the car, you probably want uh, expert in collecting cars or grading cars. Usually they call it a grade on the older cars. Grading out the cars to see what level it's at before you invest. And don't drive it too
Right.
much.
And you can't, like in Ferris Bueller, you can't just crank the miles back on the odometer. So
Driving as well as if you
can't
have
drive it backward.
if you do have an accident, that value decreases significantly.
Yeah.
One, because Carfax may not be a factor, it's just the fact that people who are experts on car buying know if a car's been in an accident just for all the repair.
So can I ask, I know your fees are going to change and evolve over time, but what are your fees generally these days for in-state versus out-of-state?
It's $990 in state. That's all inclusive for the trade-in, for the financing, for everything. Usually I collect 330 upfront and 660 on completion when they get the car. I don't charge the 330 until I prove to them that I can save them money. So I do a little initial research pro bono, so to speak, where I make sure that there's a savings that I can get them and make sure we want to work together. And then they would Venmo me or Zelle me or cash or check 330 and the balance upon delivery. Out of state is a little is more time consuming, more effort, and I charge 15.90. Yep.
Okay. Right, right. A little out of pocket there on as far as being able to work outside with other dealerships that you're maybe not as familiar with, but you can still find the right person to get the
Oh,
right deal.
I have to start from scratch when I call out of state.
Yeah.
I don't know anyone in the region you're looking to buy a car in, but so I ask what your zip code is. I call a few dealerships and find one that's willing to work with me and give the best pricing and the best experience.
And in the end, it's yeah, experience, it's time savings, it's avoiding that frustration and stress, really knocking that down, even being there on the test drive instead of the salesperson, you're on the test drive as you have done multiple times with me.
Yes, most of the time I am the one that takes you on the test drive. I just had a client looking at vehicles, and they looked at 5 different vehicles. So I coordinated all the test drives, had the cars waiting for them, air conditioning running to offset this heat, and they were able to pop in and pop out. I was actually out of town, so these dealers did it without me, and I instructed them, and they know better, not to talk price or anything else to make it uncomfortable. So my clients just had a good experience of just test driving. And from there, they make a decision based on the numbers I give them.
And just for clarity, we're not uh, paying Brian or he's not paying us for this interview. I just felt like it's great value to share what he does. He's not affiliated with Gateway Financial Partners or LPL Financial, but we love interviewing specialists in retirement and lifestyle. And this has been a great fit in our series. Brian, I have one more question, a bonus question I like to always ask. Always thinking about the future here. If there's one thing that you hope to live to experience, Brian, what would that be?
Hmm. Well, I wouldn't mind. I'm going to keep it car related.
All
Uh,
right.
I would love to own a Ferrari or a 911 Turbo. I've owned 911s, but not a Turbo yet. So, that,
There it is.
yeah.
That's going to come, I'm sure.
Yep.
Thanks so much for your time, Brian, and wish you the best. And whoever's listening to give it a shot, or at least if he's not in state for you, still check him out, or maybe find a trustworthy car broker, auto broker, and just see what they can do for you. But at least from my experience, Brian is everything he says he is, and we'll continue using him as much as possible.
Happy to hear that.
And Brian, can you tell us a little bit about reviews, maybe on Google and how people can reach you?
Yeah, I do have all 5-star reviews on Google. I'm at 80 something, almost 90 now. Very proud of that. And they're all organic, all real customers, recent. Some are distant, but most of them are in the last year or two. So please read those. Best way to find me is if you want to Google me, just Google my name, Brian Sinuk, Sinuk, or Carsultants with an S at the end. If you want to go directly to my website, it's Carsults, an abbreviation of the name, Carsults.com, Carsults.com, or my phone number is 480 329 3000. That's 480 329 3000. And you'll get me directly.
Perfect, thanks. And also just check with me if you're having a hard time connecting, and we'll make sure you get with Brian. Sounds good. Making it easy for us. Have a great day. Stay cool.
Yes, you too. Bye bye.
Thanks, Brian.